everyone. Welcome to another edition of Meet the People. My name is David Feiner. I am the Communication Technology Manager in the City of Pittsburgh's Department of Innovation and Performance. Today, we're very happy to have the Executive Director of the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh, Susheela Nemani-Stanger. Susheela, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
How has year number one gone so far?
I have such a strong executive team at the URA, and all of my colleagues have a real head for business and a real heart for people. And so year one has been amazing. It's been a challenge, and it's been many days of problem solving. And we've had many heart-to-heart conversations with communities about their needs. And so I would say year one, it's a privilege to serve the city in this capacity.
That's great to hear. I love hearing from people who love their jobs. I just think that's a great thing to hear. But before we get into the URA, for those that may not know you or may not know the URA, let's start a little farther back, some personal history, where you're from, your job history, and how'd you get to the point where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I was born in the Mon Valley in Charleroi. I grew up mostly in Ingomar, which is in the North Hills. Worked for a number of years, found my way to Baltimore as a technical writer. And it was there in Baltimore, working for an architecture, engineering, planning firm, that I learned about the field of redevelopment. One of the first contracts that we were awarded as a result of a proposal I wrote was for the redevelopment of public housing sites for the city of Baltimore. And when I learned about the field of redevelopment, my mind just exploded. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I spent the next 3 to 4 years continuing to work in the private sector and making my way to the technical side. Returned to Pittsburgh after about 5 years, went to graduate school at Pitt. And after graduate school, started working for the URA.
So that you are I can't believe I'm going to say this twice. You are a URA success story. Is that a great way to describe your journey through the workforce?
Well, I think that my tenure post being the executive director will decide that. I would like to think that I'm a success story, but I think that we'll have to discuss that in the future.
Okay.
I like to think that I bring a lot to the role, but my work will speak for itself later.
So you got the job, and that's great, and we're all very excited to have you on board. You're a face that we, the City Channel, you've been at City Council table many times, so it's good to have a familiar, friendly face at the URA. But I want to backtrack even more. If there's somebody watching this and who has never heard of the URA, the simple question, what is the Urban Redevelopment Authority?
That's a great question. So the Urban Redevelopment Authority is the city's economic development arm. And so our mission is to foster sustainable prosperity across all of Pittsburgh. And so we see varying successes in our neighborhoods. And we are proud of the strong neighborhoods, but our role is squarely focused on inclusive growth for the neighborhoods that need to be stabilized and strengthened. And so our work is directed toward efforts that help advance affordable housing, fostering job creation, entrepreneurship, and supporting small businesses, and supporting mixed-use redevelopment throughout the city.
This is a twofold question. Are there neighborhoods that you work in more than others, and which neighborhoods do you think need the most help?
There are neighborhoods that we work in more than others, and the neighborhoods where we focus our attention are the neighborhoods that are generally described as in extreme need areas. And because those are the neighborhoods that need public intervention. So in fact, the URA, like many redevelopment authorities, we have adapted our role over time. And so we're one of the oldest redevelopment authorities in the nation. And we spent many, many decades working directly with private business and the Allegheny Conference in those early days. And we did a lot of work to clean up the waterfronts, and the riverfronts are nearly unrecognizable from when the URA started their work to remediate brownfield sites and reposition downtown. And I would say that our role has shifted from almost a business attraction and retention perspective to more of an inclusive growth model where we focus much of our energy on supporting the advancement of quality housing and affordable housing throughout our city.
Do you have a favorite neighborhood?
I would never name a favorite neighborhood. Every community has a different need.
Yep.
And we have some tactics and we have a toolbox that as economic development professionals we can bring to bear. But truly, it is an iterative process with community groups to identify their needs and understand how we can work together to advance what some gaps are in their neighborhoods. So yeah, I mean, I have neighborhoods where I have, some favorite restaurants, or where I like to go watch fireworks, or
Right.
where I know, there's a favorite pinball place I have, but
I would imagine as you and the URA continue to work in and around the city, that you have to have and I mentioned it briefly earlier, but I imagine you have to have a solid working relationship with the mayor's office, with Pittsburgh City Council. Talk about the relationship between the URA and the city, if you can.
Absolutely. So I have a daily working relationship with the city. I report to the URA Board of Directors, and I coordinate with the mayor's office on a daily basis.
Are there ever any points where you have a vision of how you want a project to go in a certain neighborhood and city council has a completely different vision, and how do you deal with that kind of contrasting visions?
There are almost, that's the wonderful thing about Pittsburgh, is that we can have open, honest conversations with each other because we know it's never our last conversation. It's a small enough city where there's general collegiality and cooperation to improve our physical environment and really advance initiatives and projects in Pittsburgh that make Pittsburgh a city where we know our kids will want to stay. That is generally the spirit of the redevelopment world in the city, and I appreciate that. So there, like any relationship, there are always discussions about differing opinions, and that's just part of the process. It really is. And so, we talk with public agencies and they may have one perspective on how to solve a problem. And we talk with our private partners and they have different ideas about how to solve a problem. And frankly, the URA serves very much as an intermediary and an interpreter between the private sector and the public sector. And, interpreter or translator, because at the end of the day, our role is to help distill information, understand community needs, and put it into a plan that can be implemented.
One thing you just said piqued my interest. You said that making sure Pittsburgh is a place where our children want to stay. And one of the things I've noticed, so I'm not originally from Pittsburgh, I'm originally from the Boston area, but one thing I've noticed about Pittsburgh, including my wife, is Pittsburghers grow up here, leave, and then realize how great it is and come back. And you could say the same thing about yourself. growing up here and leaving and coming back. I think that's a great testament to what has the foundations that have been in place for the last 20 to 25 years and how great Pittsburgh is right now, and people wanting to come back or be here.
Pittsburgh is a very accessible city for me, and I found success in this city. I did leave because I wasn't finding the opportunities that I wanted, and that was, back in the early 2000s. But what I always think about every day is that the city is not accessible to everyone, and there are not wealth opportunities and generational wealth opportunities for everyone. And so that is our role, is to help grow a city that is accessible and it does have that quality of life where people want to stay. Because I'm very fortunate that I find it to be a very good quality of life for me and my family, but I am very, very aware that that's not the case for everyone.
As you continue in your role as the executive director of the URA, do you have a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan or a 20-year plan? Can you tell us what that plan is, or is it some sort of government secret that you can't share publicly?
Oh, I can share it. It's we have very few secrets at the URA.
Okay.
Almost everything has to go to our board, which is a public meeting. And so that is a wonderful mechanism to hold us accountable. So an important component of what our 3 to 5 year goals include are eliminating blight. And number one, that includes holding ourselves accountable for our own properties that are derelict and contribute to blight in the neighborhoods where we need to focus our energy and direct our investment. So number one, we are working on a property stabilization program to clean up our blighted properties. And we've accrued those properties over a period of 2.5 decades. And it's, it's a result of potential ideas for development that maybe not have advanced, or a sheriff's sale acquisition with good intentions, but never came to fruition. And so this is no one's fault that our property portfolio has languished, but it is our job, and it is a 3 to 5 year goal to reposition those properties so that we are not contributing to blight in underserved neighborhoods. We are actually looking to reposition those properties so that residents in those underserved communities can thrive. And so, number one, eliminating blight, and we're directing our first tranche of investment a 1/4-mile radius around schools. And it's a national policy that was developed back in 2005, the Safe Routes to School program. And so that Safe Routes to School program has been an inspiration for our blight remediation activities.
That's great to hear that there's continuing work to make sure that areas of the city are getting the help that they need, and have people who have studied this and work on this and can help those neighborhoods. This is a very simple question, I think. What is the best part of your job?
The people, hands down.
What is it about the people of the URA?
Well, not just the people at the URA, the people that we work with in communities, our private partners, our nonprofit partners.
I'm kind of near the end of my questions. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything that we haven't discussed that you want to bring up? Anything that you want to share?
I've learned in this role and through the years working in the field of economic development that there are ways for us to solve problems, but the most important thing to do is to listen, to pause, and really consider how we can help, as opposed to assuming that there's an obvious path I think that it truly is important to pause and reflect, because when we advance our work, it truly does affect people's lives. And many of our projects at the URA have had a positive effect. But there have been some projects that we've advanced over the decades that have had negative effects. And so I think it's important to pause and understand the full implications of our activities and our investments. And so that's the only thing I would add.
I know that you are an extremely busy person, and I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I know it took us a little while to get a solid date and a solid time, but I've enjoyed the relationship I've had with the URA over the years, and I hope it continues. Can we set up something later in the future, check in, see how things are going, how the Susheela administration is?
That'd be great. Yes, let's do that. Yes.
Okay. And we'll see you next time right here on Meet the People.